Cathy O'Brien is with us. In that book, she recounts being subjected to systematic torture and mind control programming from a young age in the CIA's notorious MK Ultra program.
Well, I've been speaking out on MK Ultra mind control and healing from it for over 35 years. And my 1995 testimony for Congress, Transformation of America, was censored under national security because every bit of it had been validated by clean members of intelligence, law enforcement, Secret Service. All the evidence was just glaring. It was there. We just have no justice system to prosecute through, and didn't have a Congress that could even hear the testimony of this information because it was 1995. Bill Clinton was president, and he's named in Transformation of America, so it was censored. National security was invoked on it. That means that I wasn't able to see any justice, and I'll never see any justice other than what I consider to be the ultimate justice of positive change through public awareness. You know, awareness is key, and the reason they invoke national security is because knowledge is our defense against mind control, and mind control is being used to usher in a globalist slave society agenda that we're all experiencing today. Well, I was deep in the swamp with the perpetrators that steal elections and fund their globalist agenda with drug and human trafficking, and who use mind control to usher in their agenda. And the formula for mind control is the same, whether it's of an individual, a nation, a military, a classroom, a church, or the world. And trauma is the basis of it. The formula for mind control came into the U.S. in the wake of World War II through Project Paperclip. And I encourage everybody, research that for yourself, look into it, because with them came the formula for mind control. And that trauma-based mind control had been found through the Hitler-Himmler research. There's no trauma more horrific on the human mind than sexual abuse of a child prior to age 5 while the brain is still forming. That's because it shuts down the trauma, shuts down neuron pathways in the brain, represses it deep into the subconscious so the rest of the mind can develop and function normally. Well, as neuron pathways shut down, we become more suggestible and easily led. MK Ultra is a scientific formula.
Yeah.
And it's one that includes sleep, food, and water deprivation. People wonder why our food is being bioengineered and genetically altered to starve our brains. Why our water's tainted with fluoride. It stops our ability to have our brain fire properly. Working 9 to 5, 5 to 9 to get food on the table that has new nutrition keeps people exhausted. And we're not thinking clear then. These are a scientific formula for MK Ultra mind control. Repetition is the most basic form of mind control 3 times, and it goes into the subconscious. Fear is what they want. Fear is a basis of mind control. These perpetrators haven't been around them. They're very low vibration, dark negative energy force. They feed off of hatred. They feed off of fear. They feed off of trauma. They feed off of division. And they got that the first 30 years of my life. They're not going to get any more of that from me. So I'm just going to keep living the love I am. That's the highest vibration. It's out of their reach. They can't get there from their low little place. That would be like darkness creeping in on light. And I just stay focused on bringing truth to light and making a positive difference for the children's sake, because there's a lot of children right now that need to know that they can heal too once they're in a safe place, not Child Protective Services, but in a legitimate safe place. We all can heal. The fact that I was born into a multi-generational incest-based family made me a target for MK Ultra mind control. And it was so simple how it happened in my experience, because my father was sexually and ritually abused. My mother was sexually abused and trafficked to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. That Blue Masonic Lodge keeps all the These secret societies are keeping secrets on mind control. Just like the National Security Act that came into play in 1947 has been used to suppress this pertinent information. And so the information on mind control has been kept from society for a long time. And that's where the local politicians and law enforcement hung out, at my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge. So my father's sexual abuse of me that started in infancy extended into child pornography. This was in Muskegon, Michigan, back in around 1960, because I was born in 1957, and I was used in the child pornography. I was also being trafficked to my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge to local politicians. And one of those local politicians realized my father had been caught sending child pornography of me through the U.S. mails, and told him he could receive immunity from prosecution if he would sell me into the CIA's MK mind control project. This shows how long our justice system has been corrupted by so-called national security to allow for the proliferation of pedophilia, the pedophile agenda is a mind control agenda. That's why it's been allowed to go on. This politician was Gerald Ford, and that's the same Gerald Ford that went on to become the unelected president of the United States. So as his political career escalated, so too did my victimization in MK Ultra mind control, until I was used on a White House Pentagon level. I was around 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old. I was full on in the project, but I'd been trafficked to Ford at my grandfather's Blue Masonic Lodge as a little bitty toddler. So it's a blurred line in that regard for when it all started, because MK Ultra has been a part of my my whole life ever since I was born. By the time that I was sold into the project, I was being used in blackmail videos at the Epstein Island of its time, Mackinac Island, Michigan, which is where the governor's mansion is located. You know, like I said, it was the Epstein Island of its time. That's where these globalists, these local politicians, the state politicians, and global leaders would meet and discuss how they were going to use this mind control formula on the population, infiltrate the school systems, the churches, society as a whole, the media, you know, and all of that. So they don't trust each other either. So they hold each other by the blackmail, so to speak. So those blackmail videos were being made then, and I was used in them for the first 30 years of my life.
You were a victim of Gerald Ford's? He molested you?
Yes, as a little bitty child. And by the time I was sold into the project and taken to Mackinac Island, Michigan, I was also subjected to Pierre Trudeau, who was a prime minister of Canada, and he was a master of mind control of individuals and nations. So at Mackinac Island, Michigan, where I also met who had become my owner in MK Ultra, and that was U.S. Senator Robert C. Byrd. So as you'll notice, I'm mentioning Democrats and Republicans. I'm mentioning various global leaders because they've all been in this together. It doesn't matter about party lines or even nations to this globalist agenda.
So Trudeau from Canada also raped you, is what you're saying, when you were a child?
Yes, when I was 9.
When you were 9 years old.
Donald Rumsfeld's the one who gave us aspartame that dumbs people down and loses their critical analysis with that artificial sweetener, gave us pharmaceuticals in our food. He had Henry Kissinger. Anybody can look it up. It's even in Wikipedia. You can look it up. They did the first depopulation agenda, came up with that together, Gerald Ford and Henry Kissinger. He had Nelson Rockefeller, and he had Jack Valenti, who was the head of the Motion Picture Association of America. Jack Valenti is the one who gave us the term conspiracy theory for anyone who questioned the Kennedy narrative.
Ronald Reagan also, you mentioned in the book, and you also mentioned his Secretary of Education, I'm blanking on his name, who wrote that book, the book of William Bennett. He wrote the book of Virtues. Of course, a guy who writes a book who's a politician who writes a book called the Book of Virtues. Of course, that's the most nefarious, evil guy in the world. Can you tell me a little bit about Bill Bennett and Ronald Reagan?
Well, I can talk about Bill Bennett and Lamar Alexander. He was the education secretary just prior to, and they worked together to bring in the global education program, which was based on Hitler's youth, that kind of indoctrination of the children, so that it teaches them what to think rather than how to think. And those two aligned. Well, Lamar Alexander was a blatant Satanist, and Bill Bennett was a Jesuit, and the two, there's no difference between the two on that level, because they were all about controlling the minds of the children and how they could best do it. And they took writing by hand out of the school system, because writing by hand activates the logic critical analysis part of the brain. It's part of processing information. It's part of how to think. So they took that out of the school system and put in computerization, because typing does not activate the same part of the brain the same way. And that's all detailed, because I worked under those education secretaries in the mid-'80s, so that by 1984, they had put the full indoctrination into the school system. So we've got several generations now that have been just fully indoctrinated.
Madeleine Albright, that's a great one, because
wow.
when I started working on Jimmy's show 3 years ago, and we played the clip of her being asked if it was worth it to starve 500,000 kids to death in Iraq, and she goes, "I think it is." As soon as I heard your book, I know the exact, you can correlate that. If she's cool with that, she's definitely cool with the stuff she did in your book.
Yeah, absolutely. And she was just laying the groundwork for Epstein Island. She was working the Caribbean operations, the OAS, the Organization of American States, running MK Ultra mind control slaves like myself through to handle the drugs for the CIA's cocaine operations. So she was heavily involved in drug and human trafficking, especially child sex trafficking, what was going on in Haiti, and set up the Virgin Islands, the Epstein Island, all that aspect. She was absolutely horrible. And like Senator Byrd, she was Hillary Clinton's mentor, and anybody can find Hillary singing those two praises, which is absolutely disgusting. We have all the power. And these perpetrators only have as much power as we give them or let them steal. It's time to wake up. It's time for us to, remember who we are and why we're here, and start, governing our own lives, live our own power.